Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first in a series that I'm hoping to create, where I'm just gonna kind of call it Cardfight High Ground, I think is the title I'm gonna stick with. It's the title I'm working with for the time being, for reasons that'll become quickly apparent. But I did create this slideshow. But very quickly, my qualifications. While I have not topped in any major tournaments, I have been doing fairly well at my locals. To be fair, we're kind of small, but I have been doing pretty well at my locals. I'm also the only one doing this, so qualifications be damned. But I am Shadonas. I shoutcast for a group called NGS, but I'm very, very, very interested in Cardfight and would like to contribute as best I can to the community. My personality is very analytical, and I try to gather as much information as I can about various things. That's really all the qualifications you need to know. I am planning on going to Springfest in White Plains. If you see me, feel free to say hi. I doubt this is gonna blow up, but we'll see! Either way, as you guys can tell by the title and the first screen here, this is LèVre SœurS Vs Sharanui. Again, the first in my series of the high ground. If you don't get the joke, there you go. Frick off ladder. I don't like the ladder. That's probably going to be a theme in this series. But first off, if you aren't familiar with Sharmo is one of the decks that, in my opinion, honestly has the highest capabilities of fighting Sharanui. For reasons that'll kind of become apparent as we go through these slides. But regardless, if you guys aren't familiar of her playstyle, she stacks power on the Vanguard and then duplicates that power onto all three of her sisters, giving one the ability to attack from back row. Specifically back row center, I think is a requirement. Yeah, back row center. But due to the nature of how this deck works, it has a ton of power, a fair amount of aggro potential, and being part of the Lyrical Monasterio family, it has a fair amount of plussing as well as self-board removal, which is part of the reason why it screws over my girl Sienna, who I would love to do a video on, but she's not even strong enough to really show up in this series. We'll see. Regardless, going first is the situation that you're going to end up in approximately 50% of the time. Because Sharanui definitely wants to go second. So if they win the dice roll, coin flip, whatever, you will be going first. However, this is not all hope is lost scenario, because you can kill their turn 3, as will be detailed momentarily. So, first off, part of the strategy, minimizing damage. A lot of times when you're playing LèVre SœurS, you will be saying the words no guard darn near constantly, but you kind of want to try and keep your damage to 1 or 2 prior to turn 3, because Sharanui will just aggro you on their turn 3 if you give them units to attack with, or they can create their own units to attack with. So you've got to be careful, as well as rely heavily on the defensive triggers to kind of help you through, because the defensive triggers really shut down Sharanui on turn 3 and 4. So if you can kind of stockpile those, you'll have a much easier time. So there is an asterisk here, but in general, you don't really want to call anything going first. You can attack with Hautia, no problem. She can swing and hit at your opponent's grade 1, and then she goes right back to soul, so, like, you've got plenty of aggro without committing anything from hand, and you want to try and keep that hand size high, as well as not giving your opponent any units to dominate. As part of the dominate strategy, the drop zone is not your friend, so make sure that things in the drop zone have low power. Honestly, that's part of the reason you want to run effect triggers in any matchup at the moment, because 4k is significantly less than 5k in this game, because they could add 9, so it's just a lot easier to deal with the 4 than 5. So effect trigger is definitely worth considering. Obviously, also higher shield values in most situations. So, this is where things get a bit more complicated, and I can't just sit here and hope that you'll understand why. Baseline. Shoujo Doji is your friend for grade 2, as will become apparent in the next slide. But the main reason is because you're going first, they can't call anything from drop zone if Shoujo Doji is their grade 2. A lot of people will be running the Shoujo Doji grade 2 in English until our ban list hits, which we do not know when it'll hit. So that is definitely something to keep an eye out. If you see the Shoujo Doji hit, you know you are clear to proceed with this strategy. Otherwise, you kind of have to... I think I have that on the next slide. Okay, I don't. But you kind of have to follow the turn going second strategy if they have Genkai, because they will still have a dominate target no matter what. You still kind of don't want to give them any strong dominate targets, as well as anything to remove. So it might be worth sticking with the going first strategy that I'm going to cover here. But overall, not calling things from hand is significantly less important if they have Genkai, because they will get a dominate target anyway. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that's where we get to the critical moment. Hi, Cockras. I like Cockras. My friend really likes Cockras. But yeah, this is really the critical moment. I played around with my friend who plays a lot of LèVre SœurS, and a lot of the strategies we kind of came across and worked together with will be covered here. Obviously, start of turn 3, ride for free. You get to do that. That's just one of the big things of LèVre SœurS. Honestly, that's a big lyrical thing in general. My friend complained that other decks can do it easier than LèVre SœurS and Herminia. But at the end of the day, it just kind of seems to be a lyrical identity at this point, that about half the decks can just ride for free. So, go ahead, ride for free. There's no reason not to. And then, immediately, use Sharmo's skill to call Hodia, and either call Mina or Cockras. Call Mina gives you the counter charge, which is nice. You don't need to. Cockras is nice, but at the end of the day, the power's irrelevant because you're playing Sharmo. But you do want to make sure Hodia is one of the two you call and is the final attacker, as will be detailed momentarily. So, ideally, call Ramona and one other, moving both the soul. Ideally, this gives you another 10 on Van, as well as +1, maybe +2, because you can always use the, shoot, I forget her name, but the grade 2, that Counterblast 1, give your Vanguard 5, if they're over 23, draw a card. So there's a lot of ways to plus through this, but at the end of the day, your goal is to hit 28 and have minimal board. And that's where this comes in. Attack 3 times with 28. 28 is a scary number because you need effect fronts or to drop 2 to guard them. And Sharmo obviously has drive checks. So you've got a lot of factors to worry about seeing the 28k swinging. And it is going to swing 3 times. And then return your board to Soul and Laugh. You give your opponent nothing to dominate. If they are running the Shoujo Doji grade 2, then they're screwed, because a lot of people don't think about the fact that Sharanui's call from drop is start of ride. Sharanui is not your Vanguard at the start of the ride phase, which means that skill misses its timing. So if you give them no board, unless they're running Genkai, they have no dominate targets going second. Yeah, and then that's, like I said, unless they have Genkai. Forgot that I had that part of the slide. So, now you're going second! Happy day! You really want to go second in this matchup, both because Sharanui has a dead turn 3, and you have an even scarier turn 3. So yeah, do a little dance. This is your ideal situation. Your turn 2, you can just aggro the hell out using Hodia. Honestly, you can kind of aggro on turn 1 too. Aurealis is not a bad call target if you don't need the search effect. You just call down and swing twice on turn 1. Turns 2 and 3 are your big opportunities to build your hand. So I would definitely focus a lot on building that hand, because obviously they're still, like, they're going to have a dominate target no matter what, which means they're going to bare minimum, like, and this is saying they have nothing to commit to their own board. They're swinging 3 times. If they commit a restander, that's immediately 5. So, and then 6 if just another unit. So, like, you need hand size, and you have a lot of ways to build it on turn 2 and 3. And then, yeah, drop zone is even more not your friend. Their first stride, they will be able to call from drop zone. So if you have any grade 3s in there, you're in trouble. Their G2 doesn't matter. Genkai is basically useless if they are going first. Genkai is a safety net for going second, pretty much. And Shotodoji, I mean, he gets a lot of aggression, but you out-aggro it hard. And then, yeah, like I said, full aggro turn 3, hoping for triggers, and ideally ending with as little on your board as possible. Again, using Haudia to return one of your LèVre SœurS to the soul. Pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of play Charmeau as normal, honestly, if you were going second. And then, yeah, brace for turn 4. Ideally, your turn 3 aggroes them enough that they're forced to lose pieces. And then there's also this, if you can't kill, attack restanders. If they have restanders on the board, and you can't kill, your damage here doesn't matter too much, because you're swinging Van with Charmeau and Kalmina, guaranteed. And, like, if it doesn't look like you can kill, your goal is to drop their hand as much as possible, and remove their restanders is the big, big, big thing here. They have a few ways to draw into them, but most of them are kind of during battle. So there's not a whole lot they can do to try and get their restanders for their turn 4 if you can force them out. So, yeah, just kill them, pressure, neg. Pretty standard. Details! This is Ramona, who I was talking about earlier. Very, very useful if you are going first. Your advantages! Now, this is the part of the show where I get very, very, very nerdy. Because I'm just going through a lot of strategies and stuff like that. Yeah, you have a lot of plussing before your opponent does. So, hand size, not going to be too much of an issue. Just keep that pressure up and keep working hard. You ask for a lot of PGs, specifically on your turn 3 and 4. Like, especially going second, that's basically 4 PG or takes swings. And I think I have it here. No, I'll go into that in a minute. But insane OT choices. Red allows you to restand a drive check unit, which is insane, and lyrical OT gives you basically a guaranteed win if you drive check it early. It, like, just absolutely insane OT choices. Big strength for you. Yeah, they have Dragon Empire OT, which is, like, game breaking if they find it, but they need to find it at the right time. And honestly, you have so many opportunities where red or the lyrical OT will just win you the game. Lyrical OT is a little weaker in Charmeau, I should mention that. But you do have a lot of aggro, especially with low power units. There's a 3k grade 1 that gives a unit 10k, any unit, so you can give that to Van and keep up the aggression with a 3k unit that your opponent... Then, like, you can leave that as their only dominate target and just keep up the aggression, no problem. You can search Elementaria. This is what I was talking about earlier. Because you have so many PG or takes, cards like Aura are really, really useful, where it's like, hey, on hit, retire, search for an order. That's just order. So you can search your Regalius, you can search Elemental, you can search Clean if you're running it, you can search anything that's an order, including, like I said, Elementaria, which means you can search a PG, and these are on-hit pressures onto attacks that are already PG or take, you do lose out on a little bit of power on your turn 4 because the Persona Ride power is overridden by Charmot's skill if you use the LèVre SœurS in the front row, as opposed to back, and Aura has to be a booster. But it's still very much something worth considering, as evidenced by the fact that I think almost every list right now for Charmot is running Aura. You can take cards out of Drop Zone. Aurealis allows you to take cards out of Drop Zone, which is very, very big. I mean, just getting cards out of Drop Zone that have high power, it means that you can drop a Charmot or something if you have to. Use Aurealis, get it to the soul, and you don't need to worry about it getting dominated. And then weaknesses. Honestly, the weaknesses are just really, really high. This is kind of an uphill battle, but I think it's a lot more favored than people give it credit for. But first off, time is your foe. A lot. I mean, they've got Mokuro, which is absolutely game-ending on second stride, and then they've got the Crest power, which is just terrifying, and just way, way, way too many attacks. It's just very, very difficult to win if the game goes on too long. You can be damage denied. You'd have to be very aware of this if you're playing into, honestly, any deck. Most of these weaknesses are just any deck, but specifically in this matchup, Sharanui has no problem attacking into rears to damage deny high CB decks, and you kind of want 2 CB on your turn 3 minimum. You kind of want to keep it 2-2 in this specific matchup, but, like, Charmot can take serious advantage of high CB. And then, can anyone deal with 9 attacks? No, neither can you. That's just... Sharanui is just insane. You do have a lot of units that are vulnerable to removal. Sharanui can dominate them, dominate, retire them, or just attack into them, because dominate attacks a unit, which means they can just kind of say, hey, I'm attacking this thing in your back row that's low power, but is critical to you, i.e. Cockrus. Cockrus is very susceptible to just being attacked into or dominate retired. You don't really have any good defensive options in Charmot, including Blitz orders. So, aggro is kind of your friend. To be fair, you want the game to go fast anyway. So, it's not that important of a weakness, but it's worth noting, especially in other matchups. You also have no good energy blasters. Neither does Sharanui. But all the same, you do still have no good energy blasters. That is a resource that you borderline can't really utilize. I've not seen any Charmot deck lists that you run any energy blasters, so it's a very, very real aspect of the deck that it's just like, that's a resource you can't utilize. And that's it. So I forgot to have a closing screen. I'll have to do that next time, but I hope you guys appreciated it. I'm hoping to do kind of more things like this. This is one that I very much worked with a friend regarding, because he's actually probably going to be bringing Charmot to the Springfest as part of our team, so I played Sharanui against him and kind of just walked him through how it works and how the matchup works. And so I figured I'd share that information with you guys, especially because there's quite a few people who are going to be having some hard times going into Springfest and dealing with Sharanui, and this is a solid option, especially if you are a lyrical fan. I don't have anything else really to add that I can think of. If you have any questions regarding the strategy or future strategies or suggestions on specific matchups or just decks in general to go over, I would greatly appreciate you guys letting me know so I know what to kind of look into, what to research. I have access to a lot of friends who play a lot of different decks, so even if I do not know firsthand, I have access to a lot of how they work, their weaknesses, their strengths, and I can kind of talk to them and figure it out and kind of work through the various elements of various matchups on both sides of it. And like I said, my personality is very analytical, so I enjoy this kind of thing. So feel free to contribute to the discussion. And good luck, everybody, at Locals, Springfest, Regionals, and potentially Worlds. Farewell.